Shooting the Shiznit is exclusively sponsored this month by Cloud9 LLC Vapor Company. Cloud9 LLC Vapor Company is your go-to vape shop in Oxford, Mississippi. Located on the West Oxford Loop near Continental Hair Salon. That's right, you can reach them on Facebook at /Cloud9 Vapor Supplies. That's /Cloud9 Vapor Supplies. Or over there on Twitter at Cloud9 Vapor Ox. OX. That's Cloud9 Vapor Ox. OX. Or you can call them at 662-832-6297. Over 300 flavors of juice, and if you need a starter kit, they're the place to go in Oxford, Mississippi. Come in and test all the flavors and tell them that Shooting the Shiznit sent you. Have you listened to episode 44? It's all about the G1 of 2017. Here's a clip. All the archives are at www.stspod.club.
It sets up a U.S. title program for Elgin and Omega. Hopefully, we could possibly get that here in Chicago because they're coming here in a couple weeks. Elgin is rocketing up my list of the best big men, or at least my favorite big men of all time. Just an amazing performer. And the weird thing was, I met him at an indie about a year ago here in Chicago. Stood next to the guy, and he's not that tall. I mean, he's not tall at all, but he's
5'11". He's either 5'11" or 5'12". Yeah.
5'12" would be 6.
Would be 6.
That would be 6.
It would be
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
And she says, I wish that I could be like the cool kids, 'cause all the cool kids, they seem to fit in. I wish that I could be like the cool kids.
Hey, welcome everyone, live from STS Studios in St. Louis. I am Brian Trammell, or you can call me Trammell, I don't give a shit. And over here, sitting right next to me,
right here in the green room.
We're in the green room. Now tell them you're live from Chicago.
I know, I'm in the A&W Cream Soda studios in Chicago. That's right. I am not in St. Louis. It's hotter than a St. Louis laundromat down there. I don't want to be down there.
You know what? That is the funniest thing. You sent me that text, guys. He sent me a text that said he just heard someone say it was as hot as a St. Louis laundromat in Chicago.
Laundromat, yeah.
Well, and I actually sent him a picture of a St. Louis laundromat, so it was pretty damn hot there.
That is what I call hot. So,
all right, man, this is our second annual. So this is what I love most about this, about us doing more than 1 year and keeping on with tradition. We can just have these shows year after year after year. And last year we had the top 10 performers of the G1, or just the top performers. It is the top 10. I'm just really excited about doing this again because, right now I got the G1 blues again. I always get it the few days after G1. I haven't watched any wrestling since Sunday, which I watched the last 2 shows. And so let's get to talking about it. This was exciting. This is my 4th year in a row, and it could have been close to the best. Last year was great. This was really fun too. A lot of fun stuff. So let's get started.
Yeah, I think last year was slightly better than this year for me personally, because I think that there was just too much repetition on stuff this year. Like the Tongan bullshit was too overdone. The Jay White ref bump stuff was way
Lance,
too overdone.
I got to inform you and all the listeners of something. The Tongans are heels. Come on, get off of them. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's fine. But every fucking match, it was the same thing with them. So that's why I think mix it up a little bit. It's who
was writing the storyline. That's whose fault it was.
Yeah,
that's what they're supposed to do.
So a couple miscellaneous notes before we get to our top 10. We once again had Yano as the last man standing as the lowest average. So we had him at a 2.06 average score for his matches. And like I said, I thought the repetition a little bit ruined this year for me somewhat, but there were definitely some damn good matches, obviously. Our average score for our top 10 guys this year was 3.78. Last year was 3.87, so relatively close. The ref holding the leg spot, that is getting passe to me. I thought Tama Tonga spent too much time bitching about Roman Reigns, and I thought Tongaloa was a bad Rock wannabe. And I also thought Juice removing the cast time and time again was stupid, really stupid. But Juice, I will say, Juice had a great performance, and he was slightly starting to win me over. But the whole removing the cast thing got repetitive and dumb after a while. So we put our list together. We once again ranked our top guys, put our list together, averaged them out, and we came up with our top 10. I went all the way to 20. I think you only did 15, but we put our top 10 together, and much on the same page on a lot of it. A couple of discrepancy things that we'll talk about. So shall we get started, my friend?
Sure, let's go.
All right. At number 10, we had Everything is Evil. You had him at number 9. I had him at number 12. That was one of our bigger discrepancies.
And you know what? My favorite bout was with Okada. I thought it was like, one of the top bouts. And you talked about that spot where the referee grabs the arm. They actually did the Magic Killer spot with Red Shoes in that match. I absolutely loved it. And with Evil, I've got to where it's like from one year to the next, it seems like he is the kind of guy that I used to like to watch, kinda, but now it's like I go out of my way. If he's in there with anyone above average, I go out of my way to watch his matches, and that's the way I did here. He had a fantastic performance. When we say the top 10 did a great job, they did. From 10 down, he was just totally flawless.
I love when Evil is in with the Haas's, like guys like Elgin, Makabe, even Bad Luck Fale. I thought he had some fun stuff there. There was a barricade spot that just took me out of my chair. I thought he had chemistry problems with Page, believe it or not, Hangman Page. I thought that match had some chemistry issues. Conversely, Evil and Suzuki had fantastic chemistry. So I thought, of course, it's easy to have good chemistry with Suzuki, although you're going in, you're going to get your ass whipped. But one of the things that cracked me up was during the Page match, Rocky Romero said there were dueling chants going on for Page and Evil, and the crowd was absolutely silent. So I thought that was actually kind of humorous. For me, Evil's best matches were a tie. I had 2 3.5-star matches for him. I had it with Okada, like you said, and the Suzuki match I thought were both outstanding. So Evil coming in at number 10. At number 9, we have it's Zack Sabre Jr. time. Come over here. Also, our biggest I think this was our biggest discrepancy, and this shows how my grades are better than yours because you had him at 13 for Christ's sake, and I had him at 8. You just can't get past not liking Sabre.
No,
you can't get past
true.
not liking him.
I don't like him, and you're just like all those other fanboys that if Meltzer says that Meltzer came out and said Brutus Beefcake was the greatest wrestler, you'd say, I like Brutus Beefcake now.
Nope.
I hope you wouldn't, my brother. I hope you wouldn't. Not a big fan, but I tell you what, I did go out of my way to watch, majority of his matches, like I told you guys and Cool Kids I was going to do. I thought he looked good. He is a solid. I like you better now than maybe I did 2 weeks ago. Just put it that way. I really enjoyed him in the tournament. He was. You keep watching the same matches, or some of the guys doing the same thing. He was, refreshing to watch. He still is not believable at times, but then at other times, like Naito, when he had him all twisted up, I was like, oh my God, I think that might have been my favorite match of his was with Naito.
I loved the diabolical submissions. I just love the turning guys into pretzels. I thought he started the G1 great with Ibushi. He actually made for Yano's best match. I had that at a 2 3/4-star match. It was Yano's highest match because with the style clash with Sabre and Yano, I thought it was actually entertaining. I thought Sabre tapping out Ishii was a big shocker. That one really caught me off guard. I liked the Omega match too. Kenny winning with the roll up out of nowhere. That was exciting. Juice with the verbal submission while he was pretzelized, as I like to call it. I thought that was great. And I think my favorite spot out of all of the Zack Sabre Jr. stuff with the come over here was snatching Naito's arm in the Tranquilo pose. I thought that was so brilliant. He does the Tranquilo thing, and Sabre jumps in and grabs his arm. So I thought that was outstanding.
That was awesome. I loved that. And that, like I said, that was my favorite match.
And for me, Sabre's best match I had as an Ibushi match with 4 1/4. So I had that one way up there too. So at number 8, and we're roughly on the same page on this one. At number 8, we had Big Mike You had him at number 8. I had him at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, Mike has just been one of the deals with G1. I actually, it's one of the reasons I become a fan of Mike was because of G1. I did not like him in ROH. For the reason is I didn't like his hair. And for some reason, me being completely bald, I can talk about anyone's hair if I want to. But he gets in the ring, and no matter if you're kind of keyed in on the storylines and you're thinking this guy's going all the way to the finish, he is one of those guys that you never know when they're going to pull the trigger on him. So you're thinking to yourself, they could start pulling the trigger right now, and he could win every match from now to the end. And every time he gets in the ring, that's what I think. I think, oh, he's going to win. He's going to win. I've liked I actually watched all of his matches. I even thought he had a good match with Yoshihashi, believe it or not. I thought he had a solid match with him. Mike had a solid showing at G1, and good for him. I mean, he looked fantastic. And what's really funny is if you'll look at day one, Elgin's first match at G1 and his last match, it looks like he actually has gained a little weight because they're on the road constantly, and he's probably not dieting as well. And I was like, oh my God, they gained weight during the tour.
That's so weird because I was going to say in my notes, the fact that he's lost so much weight this year has really helped with his agility. And I don't understand it because he's not getting the work that he should fucking be getting in the United States. And you would think he'd be sitting around watching TV eating Oreos like the rest of us. But no, he's like cutting all this weight. He looks great. Another big Haas. I loved his topes. He was doing stuff like Big E does, going through the ropes and shit. Ironically, he had great chemistry with Paige. I thought that was a great match.
Yeah. Very good match.
And you talked about the Yoshihashi match. That was one that pointed out for me how bad the New Japan refs are. They did such a shitty job in holding up the 3 counts. There were so many times, especially in that match, where they were holding up the 3 count, and it was like so obvious. So that's one part of the game that New Japan really needs to work on. The Elgin Suzuki match, they went into the crowd, and the crowd was fucking dead. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm scrambling out of the fucking way if I got Suzuki and Elgin coming my way. But the fans were like completely dead on that one. Didn't make any sense at all. My favorite match of his was the Okada match. I had that one at 4 1/4. The Fale match was terrible. It was boring. It was way too long. I don't know why they would have Fale out there for that long of a match. One thing I did like about Big Mike this tournament was the storytelling on his arm. His arm was hurt. He kept on going because the G1 was so important. But he did not remove the bandages like Juice to make it so stupid. He just tried to work around having a bad arm. So Michael Elgin at number 8. At number 7, we both literally agree on this guy at number 7. It is Hiroki Goto. Goto. Trammell.
I was so shocked. I mean, he's not one of my favorite. He was one of the boringest wrestlers.
The most boring wrestler, that's right. And yet he's right there in number 7.
Hey man, he did the same thing. He had a good match almost every time he was in the ring, and he made me believe that he was going to, they might be pushing him. Just a really good. Every time I seen him in the ring with someone, above average, this guy was putting out, doing everything he could do to have a good match. And just, not that I become the biggest fan of his, I never will be, but I'm more of a fan of his after this G1.
Yeah, just a solid guy. And that's what we said when we said he was the most boring, is the fact that he's a solid guy, technician in the ring, but doesn't really bring much charisma, and no over-the-top stuff like Juice would. Great match with Omega. They were fighting into the bleachers. The moonsault on the bleachers and Goto slammed on the bleachers was just amazing. The Ishii match, I was just salivating when that came on, and I realized, like, in the middle of that card, I realized that was going to be the main event. I was blown away. The brutality of that was outstanding. Just nonstop cringing during that match. The Yano match with Goto really taught me something, because I thought that most of these guys probably look at the Yano match in the G1 as the breather, like they can take a break, So like they look at the Yano match knowing it's only going to go a couple minutes. I won't have to bust my ass. So the Yano match was kept short, but obviously it gave Goto a bit of a break. But then I thought it was odd that in the Naito match, Goto entered second. I'm like, Naito is the biggest star in Japan, arguably. He's the biggest star of the promotion over there. And yet Goto still comes out second. I know he has a title, but I'm like, what is with this guy? The promotion loves him. So, I mean, Naito is the biggest star in that group. But anyway, he barely got any offense in with the Sabre match. I thought that one was kind of weird. The final match, again, Juice takes off the fucking cast, even though he's eliminated. Why do you have to take off the cast because the G1 means so much to you? You've mathematically been eliminated, you goof. Anyway, my best match was the Omega match at 4.5 stars. So at number 6, we go to the number 1 in 100 ace. It is Tanahashi. You had him at number 5. I had him at number 6.
Just a fantastic. I love the whole story. I actually mentioned this, not that I called it like some people said. I seen them saying it, but I mentioned it during In Cool Kids. I was like, are they going to push him to the finals? I did not. I mean, this was early on. It kind of looked like it, and they kept talking about this and the idea that he's going to meet Omega now. I mean, just awesome booking, something that we didn't, everyone thought it was going to come down to this guy, and they just totally screwed us over, and he had a fantastic tournament, looked just as good as he did last year, and just, if you've never noticed, I want to say something, he does not have an ass. Have you ever noticed that? He's
I try not to look.
No ass whatsoever, and also, guys, if you haven't learned yet, Juice took off his cast. I mean, you said that about as much as you said the Canellis baby that night. So
Breaking news. Tanahashi is not Kira Hogan. There we go. I thought his tournament with me was kind of weird because he started with Suzuki. Suzuki killed him in their match, and then Tana gets in one move and wins. And same thing in the Makabe match. Makabe took the entire match, and Tana gets in one move and wins. So I thought
it's real old school for that. Really, if you want to know the truth, if you go to some of the old matches, you'll see the guy that's going over actually puts over the guy he's going against more. That guy gets more of the match, and then that's real old school because he didn't hurt those guys by putting them. So.
It made for a slow start for him in the tournament. I love the guy, but I thought his tournament started slow, and he really poured it on the last couple matches. I thought the Jay White match was just kind of there. Jay White still bores me. I don't care what happened in this G1. I thought it was kind of interesting that they let Yoshihashi be competitive throughout the whole tournament, and including with Tanahashi. I thought maybe that was going to be a send-off so that he won't be in it anymore after this year, because talk about irrelevant. That guy's irrelevant. The sloppy finish with the Elgin match was kind of surprising, but I did love, obviously, the drama of the final of the A block. The draw with Okada was fantastic. The final, obviously, with Ibushi, what can you say? Just great drama, 36 minutes long. That was obviously Tanahashi's best match. It was 5.25 for me. I thought his tournament.
It was what now? What was
I had it at 5.25, Brian. 5.25.
So last year, when y'all listened to the old episode, when you listened to last year,
fake news.
He said he actually he said, I don't go over 5 stars. But here we go.
This year I've learned that the wrestling game keeps getting better, so 5.25 for that one. I thought, like I said, Tana started kind of slow in the G1, but then built nicely to the end of the show, to the end of the tournament.
All right, we got 5 left, man, and you know what time it is. It's time for a commercial with our sponsor here. Shooting the Shiznit is exclusively sponsored this month by Cloud9 LLC Vapor Company. Cloud9 LLC Vapor Company is your go-to vape shop in Oxford, Mississippi. Located on the West Oxford Loop near Continental Hair Salon. That's right, you can reach them on Facebook at /Cloud9 Vapor Supplies. That's /Cloud9 Vapor Supplies. Or over there on Twitter at Cloud9 Vapor Ox OX. That's Cloud9 Vapor Ox OX. Or you can call them at 662-832-6297. Over 300 flavors of juice, and if you need a starter kit, they're the place to go in Oxford, Mississippi. Come in and test all the flavors and tell them that Shooting the Shiznit sent you. All right, we're we're back with 5 to go. Before we get started, the big weigh-in. I'm pretty much the same weight, but and don't make any joke about this when I said I'm actually losing inches. I've went down at least. The funny thing is, when I got really at my highest weight for almost, I would say 2 years. At least 2 years, I never wore jeans. I know that's horrible, but I was too fat for what I had in my closet, and I said, if I'm too fat, I'm not buying any. Went to go buy some bigger jeans. I'm already too big for those. Went for another pair, and now I'm already too big for those. So I'm back to my closet full of jeans, which makes me happy. And those triple X shirts or double X shirts are all really, really getting loose on me. So it's fantastic to lose inches and not weight, but still doing a little exercise, but not as much as I'm gonna need, because I'm gonna be sore as hell for all that convention stuff coming up. Also want to mention, I talked to our sponsor, Cloud9 LLC Vape Company today, and if you go in and mention Shooting the Shiznit, she'll give you a whole 10% off of your whole order. And Lance, I was going to ask you, we talked about this a little bit, but how did you like Tuesday's show with Todd Martin?
I did like that a lot. He was very knowledgeable about MMA. The fact you blew me away at the end, or he did, when he said that he works for the LA Times. I'm like, damn, that's a real journalist there that you got on the show. So I really enjoyed listening to him and hearing the going from the Observer to the Torch saga. That was interesting.
Yeah, if you really want to hear the story on that, guys, listen to the podcast and then just do a Google on it. I thought it was kind of silly what happened, but he seems to be really happy working with Wade now. We don't always talk about Wade and the Torch, but it's also a fantastic publication and has been going for years. You know, I don't subscribe like I used to, but I've always I thought Wade had done a fantastic job with what he did. All right, let's go. Top 5 here. Mention real quick. I want to mention that the top 6 are not the same, as in the same positions as last year. But we mentioned this right before going on there. These are the top. The
same 6 guys. Yeah.
Same 6 guys, which is kind of scary, guys.
Interesting. So, and by the way, don't feel bad about losing inches. That happens to a lot of men as they get older. So, at number 5, we have Okada. You had him we're pretty much on the same page. You had him at 4. I had him at 5.
Yeah, just, this tournament was, the storyline to me was that he just kept losing, at the front. And then they were going to make him come all the way back and win the tournament. That's what I thought. And that's what, and the whole deal he comes out with the balloons, the red hair, the pants. I really don't know what they're thinking. And then, he's on his own now. He doesn't have a manager anymore after the tournament. He will be on his own from this point on. So it'll be interesting when they start to rebuild Okada, considered one of the greatest champions over there of all time. It'll be kind of knocked him down a little bit to see the rebuild. I'm kind of excited to see that. But I thought everything I watched was really fun and just, still a really good. He's an entertainer, plus he's just so good in the ring.
Yeah. I'm wondering, now that Tanahashi has the briefcase, as it were, that this could be the year where somebody actually loses it in the fall.
Oh, wow.
And not main event at the Tokyo Dome. So, this could be a perfect spot for Okada to get his shit together, as it were, and take it. So, we'll see. I thought Okada had a slow start to the tournament. I thought his chemistry with White was lacking, which I thought was weird because they've worked together so many times. I thought him losing to Fale was a what-the-fuck moment there, but like you said, it was telling the story of him being on something of a slight losing streak to start it. I enjoyed Page, of all people, Hangman Page, bitching that he wanted the real Okada in his match,
Right.
I thought
that was really good.
Yeah, it was good. I thought the funny thing was Okada's balloons kept getting sillier, I thought there was a lot of thought put into that. The balloons were sillier based on the credibility of the opponent. So Yoshihashi got the sperm balloon, so that was very funny to me. Kevin Kelly acknowledging the fans were quiet during the Yoshi match was pretty funny because the fans were pretty much silent during that match. The Elgin match was fantastic. I thought really good, all balls out action on that one. Great chemistry again with Suzuki. Obviously, he has fantastic chemistry with him. It was a total slap fest. I wanted more. That match just ended too quickly for me. my move of the tournament for him was the drop kick off the top turnbuckle to Tanahashi. I thought that was incredible. And Okada's best match for me was definitely the Tanahashi, the final of the A block.
Oh yeah, very
going to the
much
draw, and that was a 4.5. So I hope I'm allowed to give a 4.5 star.
Yes,
rating.
you are.
Okay,
Just don't go
perfect.
to 5. Okay. So
okay.
Before we go to 4. I just want to play. This was the best match of the tournament, in my opinion, and I think this was your favorite match, too. Here is the finish of it. And you guys, after you hear it, will know who our number 4 is.
Here we go! Kenny loses it, Brainbuster! Brainbuster! Oh, he kicks out at 1! I don't know how the hell he kicked out on 1. Oh, lariat! Here we go, vertical drop, no! Headbutt! Blood pouring from Omega's mouth! Oh, Enziguri! Enziguri! Kenny's still up! Oh, vertical drop! Brainbuster! Vertical drop, Brainbuster! 1, 2, 3!
And number 4, as you can tell, is Ishii. Fantastic
Ishii.
match. Oh,
Yep.
man, what a match. Just
Ishii, my MVP of the thing. You had him at number 6, inexplicable at number 6, and I had him at number 3.
Man, I don't know. Number 6 was just the average of all matches. Some of the matches I didn't give such a big, because the Zack Sabre match was not one of my favorite. But the match of the tournament to me was Omega against him, and just, I don't know, that match. I think the blood at the end in the mouth, maybe after he pinned him, and it was just. But from, I mean, I was sitting in my recliner and just hitting 1, 2, 3 every time they went for a near finish. And even though the last 2 nights were just fantastic matches and main events, that still is my favorite match of the tournament. And just love the emotion. I'm going to tell you, Kevin Kelly and Rocky were fantastic guys. Fantastic team. And they got so fucking excited and were marking out, too, at the finishes. So.
Yeah, I obviously, like I said, my MVP due to the brutality every damn time out. You know, he got something out of fucking Yano, but it was, you know, what was interesting to me is, like I said before about Yano, the Yano match is a breather for people mid-tournament. He got stuck with Yano first. So that's like, you know, an NFL team getting their bye the first week of the season, then having to play 15 straight games, you know. So poor Ishii had to get the breather out of the way first. Then he had all those rough matches after. The Naito match was so rough. The throat chops, the head kicks, and then the Goto match. You can't leave that out. That was just breathtaking. That's the match that if you ever encounter people that make fun of you for watching wrestling or say, you know, wrestling's fake, you want to show them Goto and Ishii, because that shit is so realistic and hard hitting. So I thought seeing him tap to Zack Sabre, that was like the mark in me was crying on that one. I couldn't take that. Ishii tapping out to Sabre. The Ibushi match, just outstanding. The kicks, the slaps, just sickening. The bloody mouth, like you said, in the Omega match, there was blood in the Ibushi match too. The Tama Tonga match was more bullshit, but at least Ishii broke a chair over him, so I took a lot of comfort in that. That was when I noticed that Ishii looked dead. He looked so dead at that point of the tournament already. He had the black eyes already. He was kind of not walking straight to the ring. Like you referenced the Omega match, just dynamite. Just the blood, so many V triggers to the head. I got out of my chair. Like you mentioned the recliner. I got out of my chair numerous times during that match because it was just amazing. And one of my favorite moves was when he punched Juice in the hand. I thought that was brilliant. So anyway, obviously the best Ishii match was the Omega match, which I had at 5.5 stars, Brian. I hope you can handle that. So at number 3, we have Naito at number 3. You had him at number 3. I had him at number 4. So we averaged out to number 3.
Just, I keep when I watch tournament or watch him in matches, it's just like this guy is the best one they got, and then all of a sudden we see Omega, almost every one of his matches were top notch. My favorite was Sonata. I thought the storyline with the whole tournament was just awesome. It started, without them doing the fist bump or anything, and then the finish of that match. That was one of those matches I was jumping up and down on, too. Mm-hmm. Just a fantastic match. Great chemistry between those two, which kind of surprised me. And I would watch something down the road against those two again.
Mm-hmm. I thought he started out so strong in the tournament with the Omega match was the first match, and I thought it was a surprise for Omega to win that. I really thought Naito was going to win that because I just don't see the champ, going into the finals and possibly winning. So I thought for sure Naito was going to win that. So that caught me off guard that Omega beat him. The spit spots on Ishii were pretty interesting. I'm like, I would not be spitting on that guy, but that's just me.
Another fantastic match, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that he was, like I said before, he's the biggest star. The crowds were consistently the hottest for Naito in the Naito matches. I thought they were consistently the hottest for him as a babyface, although he did play heel with Ibushi, egging on the crowd. I thought the Goto match was too short. It should have gone longer. I wanted more. It left me wanting more. I actually liked the Naito-Yano match, believe it or not, as much as I don't like Yano. What got me entertained by it was the fact that Naito almost cracked up a handful of times, as well as the fact that he taped Yano to the rail, and Yano had to try to get back in the ring with the rail, and he whacked Yano in the head with the DVD. So I thought there was some really funny stuff in that match. There was so many dangerous head kicks and neck spots in the Ibushi match, though. I enjoyed the LIJ battle as well. They spit on each other, I thought, which is true heels. They were true heels to the end there. I definitely gave Naito. My favorite match was the Ibushi match at 5 stars. I think I'm allowed to give 5.
Yes,
so
sure.
At number 2, and we agreed on this, at number 2, we had the best bout machine, Kenny Omega.
What can you say? I kind of feel weird talking about, well, Omega was great.
Number 2.
No shit,
Yeah.
And number 2 also, this is a guy, that I've liked for a long time, but the guy that I started liking is not this guy. I mean, he really isn't. He isn't at all the guy that did a little comedy, occasionally he has a good time in those tag matches with Chase. I love him and Chase as a tag team, just because they have a good time doing Rock and Roll Express spots, by the way. But just from top to bottom, his matches were fantastic. I think one of the most, and I explained the whole storyline to the wife. I think the storyline of him and Ibushi is like one of the best ever wrestling storylines. I mean, and they spent such a great time. They spent a lot of time talking about it and building it in that match to the point to where when that match was over, I mean, I almost felt like crying. I really saw it.
Yeah.
It's the story that, he went to DTT and, they didn't talk for many years. And I don't know how much of that is real, but most of what I've been told, it is. So that's what really made it. It's the realness of everything. And I think it was neat that they said, friends, lovers. They said a bunch of stuff in there that was just like true. It went through the whole storyline. And then when the match was over, it's the kind of match, and this sounds so hokey, but it is the kind of match where you just say, I don't care what anyone says. Wrestling's like one of the greatest things ever. This is the kind of match, and I had that feeling when I seen like Chris Benoit against Guerrero, some of the Samoa Joe, CM Punk matches were that I seen, when they were going against each other in their best matches. It's just one of those feelings you get about like saying, man, this is what it's all about. And that's what it was, the storytelling. And for fans to say New Japan don't have storytelling, that's the best story ever right there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, how about my earlier theory? Now that you got me thinking about Ibushi takes the briefcase off of Tanahashi, and it goes to Ibushi at Tokyo Dome. So there you go, against Omega. So anything's possible. Again, I thought Omega started out the tournament super hot with the Naito match, and then he ran the table. He had Goto, Tama Tonga, Juice, Sonata, Sabre. Finally, Ishii was the one who beat him. So What I don't know is how the fuck does Kenny Omega do these top level matches with a broken fucking heel, for Christ's sake? Not a broken fucking neck, a broken heel. I just don't know how the man maintains the level of, his performance. How was the Ishii match not the main event on that night? They actually had an Ibushi match was the main event that night. The Yano match was brilliant. Believe it or not, you hear me saying that. It's probably the only time I'm ever going to say it.
That's the one I look forward to. As soon as Omega's in the same block, I watch both of them. They're hilarious.
Yeah. Omega laid out by the Tongans in the previous match. Yano looks to jump him quickly and get the win, but he couldn't quite do it. Then he tapes Omega to a young boy. That was fantastic. I love that. And then he suplexes Omega onto the turnbuckles, and Omega doesn't sell it because they're fucking pillows, basically.
Right.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
As I've said before about my comedy and wrestling, all I ask is that it be funny, and that was fucking hilarious. So I can live with a Yano win over Omega because the whole damn thing was so creative. So, like you said, great drama in the final of the B block versus Ibushi, friend versus friend, but then tempers finally flared. Omega going all out. It seemed like Ibushi kind of holding back a little bit initially, but then he goes all out too. Ibushi, the moonsault where he lands his knees on Omega's chest. Oh my God. How was that not a cracked sternum? I swear. So anyway, obviously the best Omega match I had was the Ishii match at 5.5. And now, with very little surprise, we go to number 1, which is, of course, Kota Ibushi. We both agreed on number 1.
I love the story of this too, and I really wanted them to put him over in the finals just because of the story. I mean, he started with DDT. Something they didn't mention is that and I'm surprised they didn't, but he was offered a WWE contract, and everyone just thought he was kind of flaky because he didn't do that. He went back and did some of those weird matches for DDT after the WWE. And the storyline also with him in DDT, there's very few guys that'll work those. And at one point, they wouldn't use any of those guys that would work the independents, and they consider them worse than we do sometimes. They wouldn't have brought him back. Ricochet's one of the guys that they brought in, and he's one of the guys that they brought in. And I become a fan of his when him and Ricochet in one of their matches. I think it was for the Super Juniors or something. And all of a sudden, I'm a big fan of his. But just have him do what he did in the whole storyline of this is the kind of guy that shouldn't be in this spot. Because he wasn't brought into the dojo and all that. It was fantastic. I wish they'd put him over, but, it didn't hurt me seeing Tanahashi go over either. So
yeah. So, again, great chemistry. I thought great chemistry with Zack Sabre. I love the style clash in that match. Zack Sabre with the submissions and Ibushi with the high-flying stuff. The handful of oh-my-God moments. The moonsault from the top of the post to the floor onto Juice between an opening and the railing. That fucking was so dangerous looking. Another one was Yano taping his hands together and Ibushi actually fucking hitting a drop kick with his hands taped together. I'm like, you talk about athletic. Holy shit. The other one was the Tama Tonga match where he did the tightrope walk on the railing of the balcony, which is crazy enough on its own. But then he fucking does a moonsault onto Tama Tonga on the floor. And the match was okay, but I gave the match 2.5 stars, just on that spot alone. I swear it was fucking amazing. Couple other interesting notes. Sonata was weirdly over against Ibushi, and he even beat Ibushi. So Ibushi was the ultimate babyface throughout the whole thing, but yet in the match with Sonata was strangely over. And if it hadn't been for the G1 being so well booked out in advance, I honestly thought that could have been an audible that, hey, this guy is so over, Sonata is so over him tonight, let's put him over. If there wasn't so much riding on it, that obviously it's not true. But I just thought it was such a weird thing how out of all the cities that they were in and all the guys he wrestled, Sonata was getting cheered over Ibushi. He had another great match with Goto, another hometown crowd for Ibushi, so obviously the heat was great there.
That was a fantastic match. That was another one of those with Goto. You go, oh my God.
The danger spots in the Naito match, as we referenced before, just cringing watching some of that stuff. Obviously, the Ishii match with Ibushi was all out, just outstanding stuff. The great drama of the Omega match, obviously, and I thought Ibushi had to win. I really thought there's no way you can put over Kenny in that match. I thought it had to be Ibushi in that one.
I agree, yeah.
And then I love the announcers going silent during the final. There was like about a 2-minute stretch towards the end of the final with Tanahashi where the announcers went silent and they just let the drama tell its story. I love the Omega and Shibata in their corners. Just a great touch, a great tournament from Ibushi once again. Best match for him was the final, the 5 1/4 with Tanahashi. So there you go. Number 1, 2 years in a row is Mr. Kota Ibushi. So I did tell you I was going to have a couple comparisons late now that we've finished our top 10. Ibushi repeating as number 1, Yano repeating at number 20. A couple other things comparing our scores from last year. The biggest drops in score was Suzuki went down from number 10 to number 15 this year versus last year. Okada dropped, not bad, but he dropped from number 2 to number 5. And our biggest increases in our scores, Naito went from 5 to 3. And Zack Sabre, as much as you hate it, Zack Sabre debuted at number 9 on our list. So our top 3 matches, as far as I'm aware, our top 3, we agreed on Ishii and Omega at 5.5. Well, I said 5.5. Then Ibushi and Tanahashi was 5 1/4, and then Ibushi and Naito was 5. The interesting thing was the Ishii and Omega match and the Ibushi and Naito match were back-to-back on the 4th of August. And also my lowest score was also on the 4th of August. It was Yano versus Sonata, which I gave 1 star to. So a couple other things to wrap it up. 6 of our top 10 were in the B block, so it was not a complete blowout like I initially thought the B block was going to crush the A block as far as talent. So it was only 6-4. And average scoring, I think this is interesting. Your average score in the top 10 was a 4.08, and mine was a 3.51. So I think as a rule, as a habit, I think that you tend to grade a little bit higher than I do. Not saying wrong or right, just it's an observation.
No, there's no wrong or right. And I want to tell you what, I get so excited with the G1, and I find myself enjoying those matches sometimes more than I would, a big match some other time. And it's just because I love fucking tournaments. So, and just the idea that I know it's going to be so long, it's a process. The process is me getting up almost 30 minutes to 45 minutes earlier, and being able to watch the matches before I go to work. And it's just one of those things. It becomes part of your life. It's funny because when it is a G1 season, which what I call it, the wife is like, okay, so you're watching G1 before breakfast. Do you want me to cook breakfast on the weekend? She cooks breakfast. I watch G1 while I'm waiting. And then on the other days, I cook. She's gone by the time I get up. But it's just really funny. It's the whole habit. And it's like me and her know exactly what's going on because it's G1. But like I said, I'm hoping I don't get it as bad as I did last year, but I haven't watched any wrestling yet. I have read The Observer, but I didn't watch any wrestling, so hopefully I can get out of that. I'm about 3 weeks behind on CMLL, and I was really watching Arena Mexico every week, and then behind on some other stuff too, but sometimes this time of year I get behind on everything and just watch G1.
G1 is just all-encompassing. And like I've heard some people say, it's a chore. It's a chore. And honestly, the way I watch it, I don't know about you, but I just cannot watch the undercards.
No, I can't either.
If you skip that, and it's interesting because reading the results in the Observer, you'll see it's the same guys doing the job every time. When you see a Show and Yo and Gato in the matches, then you know who's doing the job every time. It's never the guys who are actually in the tournament that are doing the jobs. It's always those other guys. So it's like it really, truly is, to me, pointless to watch. So if you watch just the main tournament matches, you could get it in about 2 hours or so each night. So it was totally doable. But I understand where everybody comes from when they say kind of the burnout factor. I
want to say something real quick, too. I messaged you on the next to last day because I was not caught up. Told you watch for spoilers, and this is what pisses me off the most. Where was my spoiler at? It was on fucking New Japan World. I could not believe it. I go to New Japan World and they're showing the card for Sunday, and it has. Ibushi.
Who the final is, yeah.
Yeah, who's in the final, yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then, so I spoiled that for me, but I didn't spoil anything else. So I knew who was going to win. I was excited about it, but it didn't really mess up the match. But it was funny that they had to be New Japan World that did it. All right, guys. Hey, same bat time, same bat channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. us. Be there! And as always, love my mama.
And I love salami.
Salami? Good God.
And bologna.
Yes, you do. And oh, by the way, I know you didn't notice this, but Juice took off his cast.
Hey, that was another great episode of Shooting the Shiznit. I do appreciate you guys joining us. We're always looking for contestants for Who Wants to Be the Best Shiznit Ever. We have shirts, that's right. We have merch.com. And shirts start at $12.99 and sizes all the way up to 6XL. A big thank you to Cloud9 LLC Vapor Club. That's our sponsor for this month. It is the go-to vapor shop in Oxford, Mississippi. Remember, Patreon side. It's our Patreon side. We're trying to get 10 Patreons. That's patreon.com. Shooting the Shiznit without a G. That's right. Bob McGee at Pro Wrestling's Between the Sheets. That's www.pwbts.com. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Gene Jackson at localstolegends.com. Sean Garmer at Wrestling to Max website. That's w2mnet.com. And our buddies over there at WrestlingNewsCenter.com. All you guys posting, we do appreciate it. You can reach me at Comic Book Mark BT, at Shooting the Shiznit on Instagram. That Comic Book Mark BT is on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We also have a Cool Kids Wrestling and MMA Talk Facebook group. You have to ask to join. We don't like you, we kick you out. All the archives are at www.stspod.club. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher, Player FM, Podcast Addict, Spreaker, and all the other fine podcast players. A big shout out to Creative Control. These are our podcast brothers. Yeah, that's right. Creative Control over there. JoJo Feeney, also the Creative Control Network. Keeping it 100 with Conan. We do appreciate all the plugs and the helps there. P3 Radio with my buddy Max. Listen to the Red So Fine episode. That's one of my favorite. And two non-wrestling podcasts that I just love to listen to. It's Who's Right Podcast and Po Boys Podcast. Last couple episodes on Po Boys have been really great episodes. Y'all guys reach out. Try to listen to our podcast brethren, all right? Brethren, whatever you want to call it. If you're still listening all the way to the end, thank you. Thank you very much. Now let's get on with the day.